What's up, team? It is time for a staff video update this hot week of June. We're heading into July. It's starting to feel way, way, way like a Northwest Ohio summer. So hopefully you are able to stay chilled. It feels good walking into the building. It's a little bit intense walking out of the building on my way home. But last week when I got back from vacation, I talked a little bit about the staff survey that we got, and I was able to review some of those results with Josh and look over them myself. And overall, I'm very encouraged with the feedback that you all gave. It's helpful to hear from you, your experience, so that we don't just make it up in our head like, oh, we're doing better than we think we are, or maybe we're doing worse than we think we are. And so some of the observations is that the overall energy trend, which if you're gauging numbers, somewhere between 7 to 10 is pretty, I would say pretty good. 5 to 7 is okay. Anything below a 5 as a team is broader team. I mean, individual circumstances, can challenge all of that stuff. But for us to be at 6.8 is pretty good. We're just a tick above where we were at last year, and we are way above where we were the year before that, 2023. The biggest year-over-year movers is satisfaction with overall compensation package. We went up a little bit, and receiving the right amount of feedback went up as well. This is some of the feedback that you guys have been giving us over the last couple of years that we really want to be responsive to. Nothing else really fell super dramatically, and so that's encouraging as well. And so there are a few comments that I want to speak to that may be helpful. First of all, there's a tension that I saw in a couple of the comments where if you've grown up at Cedar Creek or you've got the Cedar Creek culture, our culture is strong and we love it. But there are a few people, maybe you, and I think this is important for us to think about, that feel like, when does strong culture become groupthink, where we no longer allow outside ideas, and this is the way that we do it, and so just do what you're told. And so there's a couple principles there. One of them is just the bad leadership, where you're not taking any feedback or input, and it's just like, do what you're told. We don't really want that. That's not even a part of our values. We take growth personally, and a part of that is learning how to give and receive feedback so that we can celebrate progress and make things better. We're better together, meaning my own individual approach isn't the only way. And so we constantly want to be learning from each other. And yet, there is this Cedar Creek way that can make ideas or potentially people who didn't grow up at Cedar Creek feel like they're on the outside and wondering what's my place. And so maybe a metaphor to help with this is sports. I'll use sports. There are certain football teams that are like a run-oriented offense. They build their offensive line, they pick their quarterback, and they recruit running backs that can handle a run-heavy offense. And so there are certain running backs that are better at running almost every down or every other down, think like a Derrick Henry style, versus a more finesse running back that doesn't want to get hit too much, risk of injury, etc. So if you're a run-heavy offense, you kind of build that into your ethos. That is your culture. And if a West Coast offense, which is a quarterback-heavy, run-pass offense, dumping quick passes off to the side, comes along, their ideas aren't really going to work in a run-heavy offense the same way that run-heavy plays aren't going to work in a West Coast style offense. And so there is an aspect where you want to honor the culture that you have. I'll give you another one. Like Starbucks has an approach to coffee that isn't everybody's favorite, but it is their way to deliver coffee. And so if they suddenly changed all of that to become like a local coffee shop, they would no longer be Starbucks. They would be a local coffee shop, which is cool, but that's just not who they are. Or take Apple and Google. Apple is a closed ecosystem. They build software and products that work really well with each other and don't always play well with outsiders, whereas Google is more open source, meaning it doesn't have to have the name Google on it. If it's a part of the open Android system, it can play more well with others. And you and I have all experienced the pros and cons of both of those. So does that mean they're not open to outsiders being a part? No, but they're also not opposed to new ideas, but not at the expense of the core approach to what they do. And so we too want to be open to new ideas, ways that we can accelerate our mission and our vision. And so if you have those, especially if you didn't grow up here, you're going to help us see things from a fresh perspective. That's awesome. But we're also probably not going to change our entire approach to the way that we do church, are being mission focused and better together and taking growth personally and celebrating progress. And so oftentimes when there's that disconnect, there's something beneath that that's worth exploring, and I would encourage you to do that. Another tension that I saw in the comments is, how are we helping people grow spiritually? And that's really important to me. I want you as a staff to feel like your relationship with God is growing, is vibrant, and is rich. The challenge is what that looks like for each of us probably varies across the board. I mean, Gary Thomas talks about the 9 different sacred pathways. And so spiritual growth for some people looks like serving, and for other people, it looks like long amounts of solitude and quiet, somewhere on a hike or in a monastery. And so what works for one person to feel really connected with God doesn't really work for everyone. But things that I think are really important is, are you able to attend the weekend service? And if you're serving in a weekend role where you're not sitting in the weekend service, I would begin to talk to your supervisor or strategize ways to get into one service as often as you can. I know there are weekends where you can't, but sit in a service every weekend. That means you're going to have to raise up leaders to help fill the gap. It means you're probably not going to be able to sit in maybe our most attended service, but sit in a service, and during that service go, God, what is it that you have for me? Your heart posture in that service matters more than probably the content that I'm delivering. I mean, when I go on vacation, I attend a church of a couple hundred people. I could preach the messages that the pastor is giving, but I go in with an attitude of like, God, I'm here to hear from you. And so I would encourage you to do that. Are you using our app? Are you participating in the daily? I know it may seem too simple for you, but that is an easy way to keep my heart connected to God in gratitude, and to keep me praying for the people and reminded of the people, what they're dealing with in our church. So I think the app is a great way to grow. Is it good to go outside of our organization to grow? Yes. I read books and listen to podcasts and listen to other pastors all the time. And that helps me grow. It helps me prepare. God speaks through all of that. And so does my group. Being connected with guys who are on the same journey as me, all of those are ways that we provide right here to make spiritual growth possible for you. So if you feel like, though, you're waiting for somebody to give you specific next steps, like to direct you on where to go, that is not my style. And maybe you just need to ask your supervisor or say, hey, it would be really helpful if you gave me 2 or 3 things to think about, or begin to brainstorm that with your supervisor. Okay? Because we do. We want to help you grow. Another tension or comment that I saw, observation, is that there are a couple of people, and if you looked at the results, you probably saw this too. There are a couple of people who have a different experience than the majority of the staff. There are 1 or 2 people who strongly disagree with the care and oversight that their supervisor brings, and they also strongly disagree with the trustworthiness of me and the executive team. And so if that is you, we want more for you. I mean, the last thing that I want is for you to feel like you're a part of an organization where you don't feel cared for by your supervisor, where you don't feel like you can trust the leadership or trust me and the decisions that we're making as a church. Man, we would love to help. So tell us about your experience. Talk to HR. I mean, if you feel like I've done something to violate your trust, I would love to know. Like, I'm not aware of any circumstance or any situation. Like, the survey was anonymous for me, so I don't know who answered what. But if that's you, we would really ultimately love to help. Some questions that you may want to consider, even if that's not you, but you answer differently than some of our other staff members, is evaluate where you feel different than the majority of our staff, and evaluate how much that impacts your overall well-being. And if it's pretty significant, if it's disruptive to your ability to show up to work and trust your supervisor or trust the direction of the church, I would talk to someone about that, because that'll become just a burr under the surface. It'll become a point of contention that will ultimately erode trust over time, where you'll start to make up stories about the why behind the what, and that could cause problems for you and for us down the road. So if there's an area where you just feel like your experience is different from everyone else and it's causing you to have a little bit of resentment or like angst when you come in, man, Don't let that linger. Keep those accounts short. Let's try to get to the positive side of that, or maybe we do need to change something from our perspective. And if you have ideas that you think can accelerate our mission, we want to hear them. I don't think the way that we are doing everything is the way that we will forever do them. But I do think our heartbeat for the one, for the lost, for the unreached, for the unchurched, as long as I'm here, that's not going to change. And we're not going to become a monastery or a contemplative environment that's focused on the already convinced. I love all of those things. I think they play a valuable role in the right place in our spiritual journey. But my focus is on reaching as many unchurched people in the time that God has given me and given us here at Cedar Creek. And so, and I know many of you are on board with that. So, this is helpful. Hopefully this is helpful framework for you to keep thinking about that, keep dialoguing with us. We want to get better together. And in fact, we're going to be talking about this during our next series. What is God teaching me? I'm going to share a little bit of what it means to hear or discern, how we can hear more of God in our life. And we're going to have different guests all the way through the month of July talking about that. And so you won't see me speak again until the next series in August. Our campus pastors will be up. Josh Whitlow will be speaking because he's in town. I'm excited for that. Andy Rechtenwald will be speaking. I'm continuing to try to give him more opportunities to continue to develop his gift. And then we're going to do 3 and 30 at the end of the month, where you're going to hear some of our new and young communicators get an opportunity to speak at our weekend message. And so this is a development month for them. And then it allows me to focus on at the movies and some of the fall series planning that is really helpful to do over the summer instead of fitting it into my nights like I have been the last couple of years. So I'm excited about that. Thanks for going on the adventure with us, and I look forward to seeing you all this weekend. See ya.